Welcome to Ojas Oasis. This is a place where you will learn how to optimize your body, mind, and spirit in ways you have longed for a long time, perhaps your entire life. Our mission is to help you cultivate, nourish, and protect your ojas, your immunity, and inner peace. Namaste. Welcome, Dr. Ramkumar.
Namaste.
So good to finally connect with you and have you on Ojas Oasis podcast. I've been wanting to interview you for a very long time. Um, you know, going to Vidyagramma was a big part of my understanding and my experience with Ayurveda. Probably the most impactful experience with Ayurveda that I've had to date. So, and every time that we've connected there, I've been there 3 times now over the past 4.5 years, and every time I am able to sit with you and satsang and ask you questions, I'm always thinking, wow, I wish more people could be in this room right now and listen to this amazing knowledge and just sit in your presence and feel the Shakti, because it's so different, as I know studying and being in the presence of a teacher versus reading out of a textbook. It's very different. Or ChatGPT or Google, Sage Google, as we call. But I just want to say I'm so excited that you agreed to come on, and I am really honored that you have taken the time, because I know your schedule is also super busy and you're doing a million things all the time. Because I've spent extended periods of time with you, and I know at any given moment there are a million things you can be doing. So thank you for taking the time and joining me and our listeners.
My pleasure. Firstly, I should reiterate that I'm also a student, uh, not a teacher. And yes, if there's something that can be shared that is of benefit to more people, why not? So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Dr. Ramkumar. And I know even we've had so many beautiful, extensive conversations on this about ego and the role of the ego in our modern day, and how that can actually act as an obstacle on the path of doing anything of value, or anything worthy of doing at all. So it's no surprise that you come with the most humble response and say you're a student. I mean, I think the best teachers are the best students, and the best students are the best teachers. So, and we're all continually learning, because we're all in a body. So, but but I think I speak for so many people when I say the way that you are able to answer so many of life's questions to so many different patients that come to Vidyagramma, who are new to Ayurveda, even or some like me that are studying, but didn't grow up in India and didn't grow up in an Ayurveda lineage, didn't grow up with the principles of Ayurveda, and are just so curious and want to know where to begin. I feel like you do such an amazing job of making it tangible for people that are new, and it's amazing. I've sat in many satsangs, and I've heard many of the same questions get asked every single time by different people. Unbeknownst to them, you've heard the same questions like 100 times. Like, why is the food so simple? Like, why is there no paneer or salt in the food, or sweets, or lots of questions on food, which we'll get to. But first, I thought it would be really great to start with your path with Ayurveda. Like, how did it begin for you? How did Ayurveda find you?
Well, my grandfather from my mother's side uh, was an Ayurveda Vaidya, but I did not spend much time with him because I grew up in another part of India, uh, and then at the age of 15, I I must say it was almost a spur of the moment decision to go into Ayurveda school uh, instead of regular school. Uh, it was not with any great knowledge of Ayurveda, or even the lineage had not impacted me so much because I was growing up in another part of India. But I knew about a little bit. I had heard about Ayurveda, and so I thought I should. I just decided to go into Ayurveda school more out of curiosity than anything else. And it took almost, I think, 3 to 4 years for me to actually start becoming interested in Ayurveda. And even at that point, the philosophy of Ayurveda is what uh, really attracted me. Uh, I, I, I was I used to read uh, a lot on, uh, on Western science and psychology and other such books. But uh, it's only when I started going into the philosophy of Ayurveda as well as the other Bharatiya Shastras or Indian knowledge systems that a lot of the questions that were there in my mind started getting answered. A little bit at least. There's still a long way to go, of course, but the journey began there, and then it just continued. I started getting more and more interested in Ayurveda as also the other Indian knowledge systems. And so here I am today.
Hmm. Curiosity is always the best kind of doorway or pathway into knowledge. I mean, it sounds obvious, but sometimes the most obvious things we can forget. Actually, it's just such an innocent thing to be curious, to just want to know, like, basic things.
Yeah, well, again, you can have uh, you can have a doubt-filled mind, and you can have a curiosity-filled mind. Uh, the slight difference there would be that the curiosity-filled mind wants to find answers and will keep looking till one is able to internalize the answers. While a doubt filled mind may not go to that extent, and even if one pursues a doubt, sometimes it might be more to prove my own point of view rather than to actually learn. So, in Sanskrit, we have words like jignasa, or jignasa is desire to know, or mumukshatvam, an intense desire for moksha, or an intense desire to be free. Uh, when we have that kind of curiosity, then we will stay on the path till we are able to find the answers.
I can attest to that in my own experience. Certainly, the curiosity, we can say that that's grace because it's something that is just inherently within us, right? It's not something that you can force. You can't force someone to have this type of desire for moksha or to have the experience of truth. Um, so it's this unique thing where it's driving your life in this mysterious way. You don't know where it came from, this great desire, maybe past lives, but I also think it's one form of grace to have it, to not have to work for it. But also it can kind of drive you nuts sometimes because your whole life is sort of this search, or this, you're seeking. Hopefully you're also discovering in every moment as well. You're not only seeking, you're discovering every step of the way, and each step becomes the journey. But yeah, I think sometimes we also get caught up in, when will I get there, when will I finally experience the real truth of it all. And that can be a long, take a long time.
Yeah. So again, these are all, it's a play of words. So uh, you know, I sometimes wonder, and I think, you know, one of our teachers also said this, is staying with an intention uh, does not mean that you actively search or seek. Uh, you stay with that intention and be open to receiving the answer from any quarter. Uh, you may not need to actively go out and keep searching or asking the questions, but if you are deeply rooted in the intention, there will be doors that keep opening. Uh, and maybe it'll require many doors to open before you find the answer to your particular question. But the other doors are not a waste. uh, we have to go through each door to reach that door which hides our answers, and that entire process is a growth in itself. So I'm not sure about whether I have to actively search or whether I have to actively stay with the intention. Probably the latter might be a little better.
Staying with the intention.
Yes.
It also reminds me of that. What I mean, it's in the text. It's all about non-attachment, letting go of attachment to the outcome, or letting go of the attachment to the timing of the outcome that you want. Sometimes we think, okay, I've been doing this for this amount of years. I'm expecting this at this time. Sort of like a, you know, I put in the, what is it, like the due diligence, and then you place an expectation on the universe, or on the divine, or on yourself even, of arriving to some destination in your own mind of what it will look like when you go on this path of Ayurveda, whether it be on the path of Ayurveda to heal yourself, or whether it be the spiritual path of Ayurveda, and the associated, all the Vedas that go with Ayurveda, right? It's not just, it's a whole system, which we can perhaps touch on a bit, how Ayurveda is an Upaveda. So, Ayurveda as a healing path, spiritual path, or as a Dharma path. Like, Ayurveda as a Dharma path is becoming more popular, actually, right? I mean, more and more schools are opening in the West, um, more and more like spa type places, or retreat centers, Panchakarma centers, like the one that you began in India. And in many ways, I feel like Vaidyagrama became, even though it's relatively new, it really became this pioneer in like what Ayurveda in modern times can actually be. And it's possible. And you've proven that it's possible. And nobody, I don't know if anyone really knew that it would be possible before you, before you, committed to this intention. And not only possible, but it's thriving, it's growing. Um, And on that note, actually, since I mentioned Panchakarma, I was wondering if we might, for people that have never received Panchakarma before, but those that are curious, because Panchakarma is also becoming more popularized as more people are experiencing it and getting great results for their health, their body, mind, and even their spiritual health is improving. How would you describe what Panchakarma is and why it's so effective?
Well, uh, we could refer to Panchakarma as a set of procedures or a sequence of procedures. We'll come to the sequence of procedures later, but as a set of procedures that goes through three stages. The first of which is the preparation stage, the preparatory phase where we are trying to bring in uh, the toxin from all parts of the body into the central alimentary canal. Uh, and then you have the main treatment phase, which is the actual cleansing through one of different procedures, which can be either a vomiting or emesis procedure, it can be a purgation, it can be a enema procedure, it can be instilling drops in the nostrils to draw a lot of the toxins out, or it can even be uh, drawing the impure blood out of the system. So there are different kinds of cleanses depending on what is required for the particular individual. So we have the preparatory phase, the main treatment or the cleansing phase, and then the third phase is the recuperative or the recovery phase of the treatment. All three together combined is when a Panchakarma treatment becomes very effective. Uh, Doing just the cleanse by itself may not yield the kind of benefit that is derived from preparation, cleanse, and recovery.
Mm.
Recovery is very important because you know, as a general principle, our life revolves around cleansing and nourishment, or cleansing and recovery on a daily basis. When we eliminate, when we exercise, when we engage in any activity, it is either cleansing or depleting. When we sleep, when we eat, it is nourishing or a recovery. So the two need to be balanced every single day of our life for us to achieve a higher quality of health and well-being. When this is not balanced is when we start experiencing discomfort or disease, and that is when we go in for a more intense process like the Panchakarma, going through the three stages: preparation, cleansing, and recovery, to be able to make up for the imbalance that was created by our activity and diet in our normal life. So over the centuries, people have found this process very efficient, very beneficial, especially for the many who are unable to balance cleansing and nourishment on a daily basis in their lives. And typically, in one course of treatment, most people would get only one or at most two cleanses, uh, because to go through the entire sequence of the five cleanses, each one preceded by preparation and followed by recovery, can take several weeks, um, maybe even running into months. Uh, so, in the limited time that one gets these days, it is one does not go through a sequence of panchakarma, but goes through a set of procedures depending on one's individual need. And this cleansing is or this panchakarma has been found effective in a whole range of health issues relating to all the systems of the body, provided it is done appropriate to the context of the particular individual for whom it is prescribed, and provided all the necessary precautions and uh, close monitoring is done during this entire program.
Beautiful. Very Ayurvedic answer.
Mhm.
Masterfully Ayurvedic answer. It's always depending on these. Yes, it's very effective pending all these attention to the details, which is really important on the side of the Vaidya. Like the Vaidya is responsible for really assessing, okay, what is the state of this person, and are they a good candidate for this type of intense treatment, or should it be more of like a light, shamana type of treatment, more gentle. Um, just making sure that I have enough battery on my computer. There we go. Okay, we're good. Um, okay, so Panchakarma. So on this same topic, because I feel like it's a very pertinent topic to the story of Vaidyagrama and what you've committed, your life to, which is helping people understand what Ayurveda is, helping people understand what true healing looks like and experience true healing, um, with not only actually the healing, but a lot of the satsangs at Vaidyagram are about the philosophy behind Ayurveda. So um, I was wondering, I want to get to the philosophy, but also like the practical aspect of what's the best way to prepare for something like this. Like for people that have never received one before and they want it, for example, I have so many people, because once people find out what I do, they want to know about Panchakarma, where I go for Panchakarma. I always give them the name Vaidyagrama. They wanted me to explain my experience at Vaidyagrama, what to expect. Um, and so I think a very beneficial question would be, what is the best way to ensure optimal results for the healing process? Like, how can we send somebody in without expectation? Because expectations, as we know, get us all in trouble. But the best kind of advice of going into the experience, because I know you've seen tens of thousands of patients, and you've also spoken at conferences all around the world, and different types of people are coming for this healing, um, getting various, yes, like there are amazing results happening, and there's also some resistance along the way, because as you so beautifully once, or maybe a few times, reminded me, that the path to heaven is hell and the path to hell is heaven, which I really want to get, maybe we can elaborate more on what that means as well. But like I just remember when my first time getting Panchakarma, having only read about it and studied it and never actually getting any of the treatments myself, I was like kind of in a state of shock when I first, my first Snehapana, for example. I was just like, no way, like this can't be right. Are you guys sure you want me to take this much ghee? Are you sure? This, I was in so much denial, and then my second year, or my second time back, I was so adamant and like ready, given my first experience, not knowing, but hoping that my experience, and also that this conversation, can help guide people. um, what do you think is the best way to ensure that they're going to get an experience that is beneficial for them going into their first panchakarma?
Well, I think first, um, I need to recognize that uh, I create health or disease for myself through my daily diet and lifestyle. I'm completely responsible for what happens to me, whether I do well or I don't do well. That recognition will help my mind to recognize the need to change the context in which I live or eat or do to enable me to recover well, which means that the mind becomes prepared to be challenged. We cannot think of healing as something which is very pampering or very easy,
Passive.
especially when we are not doing too well. We need to be prepared to challenge ourselves and to be as open to receiving as possible without allowing the mind to interfere by creating doubts uh, about what is happening to us. So it is only this preparation that is required. Prepare the mind to be challenged and not to react to the challenge. Instead, to flow with the challenge, trusting completely in the process and the people who are supporting us in the healing process, which is primarily the Vaidya or the doctor, the therapists or the Pracharakas, and anybody else who's there. And to try to share openly and transparently everything that is happening to one on a day-to-day basis, and allowing the Vaidya to make sense of it. It is so important that I don't give my analysis to the Vaidya. Instead, I state the facts and allow the doctor to analyze or to make sense of the facts.
Hmm.
Because generally, when I am in a healing process, it is not easy for the mind to think clearly. And by analyzing and giving the analysis rather than the facts, I may be misguiding or misleading the Vaidya, consequently hurting the healing process. So, all that I need to do is be prepared to be challenged, both in diet and lifestyle. Be prepared to take lots and lots of rest, physical and mental rest, and to go with the flow.
Hmm.
It may not make sense to me at the beginning of the treatment, but as I begin to see the benefits, a lot of these processes will start making sense to me. I think this is all the preparation that is required. The mind needs to be as open as possible to allow the body to receive the treatments, the herbs, the food, and whatever else is there in as open a way as possible.
Hmm. So, coming in a surrendered state.
Yes, I didn't use the word surrender.
I
You
did.
did.
I did on purpose because I know because because Dr. Ramdas has reminded me so many times about this word. Every day when I was with him, he said he would read my pulse, and just say, "You need to surrender." And I would say, "Oh gosh, okay, surrender more. I need to surrender more." And it's yeah.
And the surrender is to your own healing capacity. We should. It's not about surrendering to somebody else. It
Mm,
is allowing your healing capacity to realize its potential.
mm,
Because many a time we are so external in everything we do, in everything we think, everything we speak. We are so distanced from ourselves that our healing potential is not allowed to express. And that is the reason for a lot of the health issues that many of us face. So the surrendering is to go within and allowing the healing process to actually work, to do its work.
mm. I love that. And it can be surrendering the ego also, right? in another way to say it. Maybe it might be oversimplifying.
Well, when you are opening yourself, willing to be challenged, surrendering to your healing potential, it it means that there is no space for the ego, or there is very little space for the ego during this process. The less the ego works, the better the healing benefit.
Can we go back to that famous line of the path to heaven is hell and the path to hell is heaven? So, because you're alluding to that a bit about how you said, I am the healer, I am also the one who creates the disease. Um, so that's a very empowering paradigm shift, um, to just realize actually it's my actions that have created with the state that I'm currently in. Um, and we're all trying, whether we realize it or not, to experience love and peace and joy. Um, we're not always choosing the right things to get us there. And often we want that, instant gratification of pleasure right now. So that line, it's so simple yet so profound. And I was wondering if we might be able to create some parallels between that statement and the path toward health or svastaha.
So yes, when somebody said, I mean, I borrowed
Oh, okay.
that line, that the path to heaven is hell. Uh, that hell actually represents some level of discipline that I have to bring into my life, some level of daily practices that I need to bring into my life, where there is more order and less chaos, and where I am not constantly shocking by system, by eating at the wrong time, sleeping at the wrong time, exercising at the wrong time, um, doing everything haphazardly. Uh, the more I bring some level of order into my daily routine, uh, the easier it is to experience a higher level of healing on a regular basis. Now, daily routine can be like hell to begin with, because the nature of the mind is to rebel against order. For most of us, I mean, there are exceptions always, but for most of us, uh, even a simple practice like sitting without doing anything for 5 minutes at the same time every day, same practice, same time, for the same duration every day, can be hugely challenging. I can normally sit with for 5 minutes without doing anything if I hadn't put the intention. But the moment I put the intention of the same 5 minutes at 8 a.m. every day, I start rebelling against it. And the first day I find it effortless, second day I find it easy, the third day my mind says there's nothing in this practice that is going to benefit you. The fourth day the telephone rings, the fifth day something else happens, and probably before the end of the week I would have given up the practice. So creating that order, creating that discipline in the initial phases can be hugely challenging, almost resembling hell for many of us. Once we are able to transition that phase, we feel very light in the practice. But the starting phase is not easy. Likewise in treatment, likewise with food. Food is a great example. I think worldwide, everybody is trying to work with food, um, with limited success for most of us. Uh, you know, we are today on December 29th. Probably many of us would have started making resolutions for what we will do from January 1st onwards, and probably by January 3rd, many of us would have forgotten those resolutions. This is the regular pattern that we flow in. Again, not everybody, some of us, or at least many of us. And food is our biggest weakness. And so, what do? We start justifying whatever food we take by pointing to its health benefits. And we will find health benefits in all foods that we like but are not necessarily good for us. And we will not find health benefits in all foods that we don't like but are actually necessary for us. This is the way the mind works.
Mm.
So if I have to actually take foods that I don't like but is good for me, it is it is very painful in the initial phases. It's very challenging, uh, and that is why it's so important to create an order in our lives from a very early age. Some kind of daily routine, some kind of practices. If at least 60 to 70% of the day is in reasonable order, we are doing pretty well for ourselves. We can shock the system sometimes, but we cannot shock the system all the time. That creates a lot of disturbance within the system.
Hmm.
So, not shocking the system is very painful for many of us because that means a discipline, an order, a routine, a practice. And that is why this road to heaven is like hell makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
The road to hell is like heaven also makes a lot of sense because if I'm let loose, I am happy to eat anything, eat all day long, everything that I like in quantities that don't agree with me. It's pure heaven temporarily, but leading to long term negative consequences.
Hmm.
So, if I'm looking for long term positive consequences, there will be temporary difficulties. If I'm looking for long term negative consequences, there will be temporary happiness.
Mm.
That is the choice that I have to make.
Yes, and there's a balance too because we're also always practicing the spiritual discipline of staying present and not always thinking, "Oh, in the future, this will be good for me in the future," right? We can also have a tendency to live only in the past or the future and never now. Almost everyone, right? We're always either ruminating over things that happened to us when we were kids or um literally creating these possible future scenarios that most likely will never happen. We'll most likely never see them, but we spend a lot of time um, just either worrying about the future or doing things so that we will not have to worry about the future, but never fully present. So that practice, that discipline of taking at least a fragment of the day to stay present, um, and indulge in the now in some way. There's that balance of, yes, like enjoy life, have it in a certain amount, don't overdo it. Like if you have a favorite snack or a favorite, I mean, working with people in the modern world on lifestyle as a practitioner, as a Vaidya, you that you have to kind of meet people where they are, and a lot of people are so attached to the things that are causing imbalance in their lives, and instead of just saying, okay, you got to get all that out of your life and go cold turkey and I've observed some practitioners do that, where they're like, listen, you have to, like say someone drinks alcohol every day, or they indulge in, I don't know, just maybe either the quantity of food is too much, or the quality of the food is not good. um a million, we're staying in this category of food because it's universal and everyone has to eat to have a body. Other than the breatharians, that we don't have to go into that one. um but there are so many other vices that people have, and when someone comes to you in a state of dis-ease, with all these attachments to all these things, you kind of have to like gradually help them loosen the grip to these things slowly. Otherwise, I don't know how sustainable it's going to be when we tell someone who's been drinking coffee every single day for, I don't know, sometimes it's like most of their life, like from the time that they were 13 or something, they've never had a day without coffee or something. And then we're like, okay, well, you can't, you have your vata is through the roof, and your pitta, we can't even, yeah, you're so inflamed, so dry, you can't have coffee. I mean, that would like maybe shock their mind as well, right? Not just their body might get better, but their minds might start to spin out. Um, of course, and when you get to Vaidyagrama, you realize, oh, there's no coffee here. So whether you like it or not, you're going cold turkey when you get there. Um, but when you send people home, it's so easy to fall back into those old habits. They have their coffee pot, they have their favorite coffee plate cafe down the street. They associate it with happiness, with a productive day, um, with a clear mind. They have all these like associations with these patterns. So yeah, so sometimes it's not this most simple path either. Like when we talk about the path to heaven is hell, the hell is also sometimes realizing that the things that we love are killing us, are hurting us, um, and reconciling that and accepting, wow, I have to let go of this thing that I love so much. I mean, people are so attached to their coffee in the morning, like for so many reasons, right?
Well, uh, you know, again, I think everything in this world is there for a reason. And Ayurveda does not say that anything is universally bad or anything is universally good. Ayurveda is only telling us to tread the path of moderation. Ayurveda is only telling us to not fall into the trap of becoming dependent on something, to some external source becoming the source of our joy, whatever it be. It can be coffee, it can be tea, it can be food, it can be exercise. The moment I feel happy, only when I have these external sources of my joy, I'm being moved into a dependency on them, and that might start creating problems for me in the long run. This is all that Ayurveda is telling. Ayurveda is never telling us don't have coffee, don't have tea, don't have this, don't. No. You observe yourself, you become aware of what you eat, what you do, what you think, how it is impacting your body and mind. And you start seeing the patterns of when things agree with you totally and when things don't agree with you totally. And that is again a very dynamic process. What agrees with you in summer may not agree with you in winter. What agrees with you at the age of 20 may not agree with you at the age of 40, may not agree with you at the age of 60. It's very relative to your context. So Ayurveda is only giving us directions, is only giving us hints, is only giving us pointers. And we have to take these pointers and work with them every single day. Because again, what is good in the morning may not be good at night. What is good at night will not be good in the afternoon. So, if we develop some kind of a relationship with our own body and mind and how they are responding or reacting to everything in our life, we will know exactly what we should do on a given day at a given time. This is all that Ayurveda says. In practical terms, temporarily, we might need to challenge ourselves by giving up, at least for short periods, things that we like and observe the impact on our body when we are not indulging in, say, a coffee or a tea or a particular kind of food. We have to see how our body is being impacted by giving up what we like. So for short periods, it's always good. When I get used to doing something, when I get into a comfort zone around a particular food or activity, giving that up for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks at periodic intervals definitely supports me. So this is all that Ayurveda is telling. And of course, we joke, for most of us, what we like is not good for us, and what we don't like is excellent for us. I mean, in practical terms, it's a reality because we tend to indulge excessively in what we like, and we tend to completely leave out what we don't like. And this is how the balance in the system is disturbed. But otherwise, it's purely an individual choice, an individual decision. We cannot blame it on Ayurveda.
Mm, thank you. I agree. Yeah, it's so important to always remember that Ayurveda is not dogmatic. Um, that's one of the things that actually has made me stick with Ayurveda for so long and helped me realize that this is the path for me because um, there's nothing that's not medicine for the right person at the right time, which is really, it just feels so true, right? It just, it's true. It makes so much sense. You can't deny that. You could just, there's always a use for something, and it can be used as long as the person using it has the right knowledge of how to use it and when to use it and how much, right? The dose and what time of day and things like this. And of course, it's like also the lifestyle factors, the other symptoms going on, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I wanted to ask you, what was the question I wanted to ask you next? Went into this. We could talk about prana a bit. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you because I wanted to talk about prana and the role of prana in health. But since I just did this yoga, a second yoga teacher training, and we were going into a lot of yoga philosophy, and I was realizing there's so many overlaps with Ayurveda philosophy and yoga philosophy, almost to the point where I couldn't really tell where one began and the other ended. I mean, I was like, wait a minute, this is Ayurveda. Um, I mean, how can we kind of like differentiate the two systems? I mean, I know they're sister sciences, they really do work together hand in hand, but um, a lot of things in yoga, um, it's like, yeah, so non-attachment, right? Like discipline, tapas, um, saucha, cleanliness, how we take care of the body, how that helps us keep a healthy body. So I was wondering if we might be able to differentiate between the two, um, for honestly, for like my clarity and maybe like a lot of other people that are studying yoga but want to learn more about Ayurveda, because for many people, just like how I learned about Ayurveda was through yoga teacher training. Ayurveda came as like one small, module, but what I started to realize through the yoga training was without Ayurveda, how far can you really go with yoga if your body is in a state of imbalance? Doing a lot of these advanced pranayama techniques, can actually be, like you said, way too much shock, way too much vata, way too much prana, and potentially cause damage to the body. And this wasn't spoken of as much. And I was hoping that they would talk more about, okay, you can do these Kriya yoga techniques, but there needs to be a fundamental, like a lifestyle that is in alignment with Ayurveda first, um, which I wasn't. I know that they have so much content and knowledge to cover in just 3 weeks. So I applaud anyone trying to teach a 200-hour. I mean, that's a very modern concept in and of itself, is to teach something like all encompassing, like yoga, the path to truth and enlightenment in 3 weeks, when the traditional way of studying yoga, um, you're studying with the guru, and um, it's very much every single day. I mean, it's every moment of every day for your whole life. Versus, oh, you come to India for 3 weeks and you get a taste of it, and then you go home and then you teach yoga at a yoga studio, which didn't sit well with me the first time I did a 200-hour, and yet I did a second 200-hour because I was like, I need to go deeper and learn from a teacher in India, because this is where yoga came from, or where at least it was channeled for the first time, and the native language, the native culture, all these things. It's really important to get as close to the source as you can. Um, but yeah, back to the original question, because I just totally went on a tangent. Is, sometimes I do that once in a while. Was, how do we, you know, how do we differentiate between the goals? Maybe we should start with the goal of Ayurveda versus the goal of yoga. Maybe we start there, and then how the two complement one another.
Well, one of my teachers used to say, where Ayurveda ends, yoga begins. And where yoga ends, Vedanta begins. The other Indian philosophy begins, which basically means you use Ayurveda primarily for the body.
Mm,
And when the body is in reasonably good health, then you start engaging in the practices of yoga to for the mind, whether the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi is primarily an activity to bring the mind under control. And at a particular stage, when the mind is under control, then you want to start connecting deeper within. And for that, you start more advanced practices of Vedanta. So this is the linear way in which he put it, which does make a lot of sense, because the texts very clearly tell us without a healthy body, it's very difficult to go into deeper practices, and it's very difficult to experience um, ananda or sukha, which means bliss or joy, or even santosha. In yoga, you have
contentment.
santosha as the second of the niyamas. Contentment, santosha is contentment. We have to experience this, and to experience this, the body should be comfortable. When the body is comfortable and is not desiring more, is not constantly in the space of external desires, then the mind can work, or we can work with the mind to enable the mind to experience the joy, peace, harmony, etc., that we are looking for. So in Ayurveda, we will also see there's a there's a word called rasayana. Rasayana means to rejuvenate, to completely rejuvenate and nourish all the tissues and systems in the body. Um, and the best among the rasayanas, there are a lot of herbs and a lot of treatments. But the best among them is called the Achara Rasayana. Achara means practices, daily practices,
Routine.
and
Dinacharya.
a value system. And that dinacharya overlaps with the yamas and niyamas of yoga, because it is not just the physical practices, but it also talks about practices for the mind, like the ahimsa and being non-violent in thought, word, and action, speaking the truth, all of this.
Hmm.
So this achara rasayana and yama and niyama overlap, and when we have achieved the start of a reasonable control over the mind. That is when the prana flows a little more easily, and asana practice becomes easier, and then we move into pranayama, etc. So I think all these knowledge systems complement each other, and the practices flow from one knowledge system into the other. There can be occasions when I engage in yoga practices earlier than later. There may be occasions when I engage in Ayurveda practices later than earlier. That's fine. But the general flow is where I try to achieve a state of good physical well being through my diet and lifestyle, where necessary through Panchakarma, get my cleansing and nourishment in balance on a daily basis, and engage in a set of values which overlap with the yoga practices. And then I move forward from there. So, because as we all know, the goal is the same. The goal is the same, freedom. At the Ayurveda level, we can say it is more about freedom from attachment to this body, freedom from disease, freedom from attachment to food. The freedom is more on the mundane plane. As we go into yoga and Vedanta, we are talking about higher levels of freedom, freedom from thinking about the past, freedom from um, worrying about the future, freedom from this whole cycle of birth and death. We're going into higher and higher levels of freedom. But the goal is the same, moksha. We want moksha or freedom from what depends on where we are.
Beautiful. Oh, it's so good. So good. I was thinking about as you're speaking the koshas, how Ayurveda really primarily is focused on the Annamaya kosha because we just did an episode last week. I just did an episode on the five koshas and I was just, talking about how the body, taking care of the body in and of itself as a is a spiritual practice, is a sadhana. When you start to realize how sacred this body is, because without the vehicle, you're not going on any journey anywhere from any point. There's no point A or B or anywhere. It's just, you're just a floating soul, but not being able to experience, not being able to grow, not being able to overcome or learn. So the only reason we're able to have any of these experiences is because we're given this body for a certain amount of time and taking care of it. When we realize how spiritual it is to take care of something that is fundamental in our spiritual path, um, waking up at the right time every day becomes part of your spiritual practice. It's like I'm honoring this temple that I'm abiding in. I want to make it clean, make sure it's clean. Just like we clean our home. Hopefully, most of us, make sure the home is clean and not put poison in it. Like not actually knowingly poison the thing that is keeping us um, on the path. Which you know for those people who don't know that what they're doing is hurting them, then there's nothing wrong with that. But once you are made aware of it, and then it becomes prajna prada, or prajna prada. I'm not sure the right pronunciation because of, Sanskrit. I think it's prajna prada. Um,
Prajnaparada.
there we go.
Prajnaparada.
Prajna prada.
Prajnaparada. But the key is taking care of the body, taking care of the vehicle without believing you are the vehicle, without becoming attached to the vehicle, without identifying with the vehicle. Recognizing that you are in the vehicle. Many of us, we become so attached with the vehicle, we become obsessive about it, and consequently, while we believe we are taking care of it, we might be doing exactly the opposite.
So even that can become an addiction. Anything can become an addiction. Even, um, I mean, literally health, right? Like there are people that take the health obsession to a place where it becomes unhealthy. And so that just goes to show anything, even things that are generally considered good, um, in a certain level of consciousness, anything can become hell or poison. Um, this has been amazing. I mean, we covered so many things. Honestly, pretty much all of my questions and even beyond. So I think that that was amazing. And um, I did want to get more into the Vidyagramma story, but honestly, I think the best way for people to learn about Vidyagramma is to go there and to experience it for themselves. Um, it's probably the most authentic Ayurveda center that exists on the planet, that I know of, that I've personally heard of and gone to. So I can't recommend it enough. And Dr. Ramkumar is really the person who, this is his brain child or Dharma child, Dharma baby. And Dr. Ramkumar, you've just done this amazing thing by creating the space for so many people to heal and to really understand what Ayurveda is. And so, thank you for your efforts, for your devotion, for,
Thank you. And
yeah,
again, a group of us created Vedigrama.
that's true.
It's not just me; it's a group of us, and it is a step in the direction of authentic Ayurveda for universal well-being. Um, I'm sure there are many more centers across the country where Vaidyas are working with passion to create Ayurveda healing space. Uh, but yes, Vaidigrama is a space that some of us came together with a desire to uh, help create health, well being, contentment, and happiness for a larger group of people to create a healing community. So, thank you so much, Sasha. This was a lovely interaction, and you take care of yourself.
That's the key, isn't it? Not only teach it, but practice it and taking care of ourselves. Thank you so much. And I know it really does take a village to create something great. So thank you to the whole healing village at Vaidyagrama. Literally, the word means village of doctors. So to all this, the whole village over there, we are so grateful for all of your hard work every single day and your devotion. And yeah, that's that's a perfect place to conclude. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Ojas Oasis with Sasha Bershadsky. To learn more about Ayurvedic healing, please visit ojasoasis.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, have your smile.